Everyone, beautiful people, welcome back to another episode of Who Can Relate. Today's guest is going to be special. They're all special.
They're all special. And I was like, oh, he's going to call me special.
No, but I can break it down even more specifically. I've been looking forward to having you on the show since the guys and we had you on Enjoy the Podcast way back October last year. Yes. It's almost a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess we'll have to do a digital, because you were in Toronto.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, she's moving. Perfect.
Yeah.
I tried to get like my time in with you. I wanted you to get a little bit settled and do, other things. And then I get you on Who Can Relate. But everyone, welcome, Miss Lauren Morrison.
Thank you. All the cameras.
I also think too, like, I don't have to, everyone knows you. I feel like everyone knows you.
I don't think that, but you know what? I appreciate, I didn't think you were going to make me feel special, but you did.
Oh, yes.
Because I was like, my very special guest.
No, I'm serious. I was really excited. And I also know that right now, the transition and the time that you're in your life is important to give to others, because I'm sure they can either relate to you or have thought about what you've done and hopefully it can be inspired.
Yeah, or the other way. We'll see. It's messy right now. I'm just here to get messy with it.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I'm here too.
I'm not in a clean place.
Should I roll up my
moment.
sleeves? Or
yeah, roll up your
how
sleeves.
Messy? Okay.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get messy. Let's get in the dirt.
So today we're going to be talking about change. We're going to be talking about starting over. We're going to be talking about I thought it and I achieved it, because you did, and so much more. And I want to kick off today with a quote from Sidney Howard. One half of knowing what you want is knowing what you must give up before you get it. Change will always cost you something, if not monetarily, then in time, energy, and creativity. In fact, if change doesn't cost you anything, then it's not a real change.
Yeah.
So, Miss Lauren Morrison, you are quite the poster child at the moment for change. Walk us through what's been going on in the Department of Change in your life, in your family's life.
So the change that we made, as you have alluded to, is, back in October, while I was on Enjoy the Podcast, I was here in LA because my sister and Jared were about to have a baby. And it was the longest that I've ever not seen my sister. And I was just like, she's going through this pivotal time, but because of COVID, I don't even know if I can go down there. My dad told me some crazy story, like, you're not going to get insured. And if you get sick, the mafia is going to steal your house. And I was like,
God. Brian,
are all these things true? So there were so many scare tactics around being there for her.
Yeah.
But I knew that she needed me. But moreover, I knew that I needed to be there and I wanted to be there. So I came in October by myself. I left my family. I've got a husband and I've got two children by the ages of now 12 and 10. Sorry, I just turned 10 yesterday. So I left them with the intention of coming here for 3 weeks to throw them a baby shower and hopefully be here for the birth.
It's a great baby shower, by the way.
Thank you.
The mac and cheese was memorable. Just want to say that. I
got a lot of pressure on, like, you cannot make this baby shower lame. And it's really hard to not make a baby shower lame.
That's true.
They're lame by
the games kind of make it lame.
That's
if
my
you have
point.
the wrong games.
That's my point. Yeah. So it was, anyways, I digress. So that's another episode on how to throw a bomb ass baby shower.
Exactly.
But while I was here, just like the conversations I was having, the people that I was around, I kind of went home to Chris at the end of the 2 weeks and I was like, you're not going to know it until you feel it, but it's different. It's different being around that kind of energy where so many people are into what you're into. So many people like the music that you like. So many people, think the similar ways that you think. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for thought diversity, but it's just around being around creative energy, but not only creative energy, but it was about being around successful Black people. That was not something that was in my world. Don't get me wrong. I know successful Black people, but they weren't they weren't in they weren't in the spaces that I was, so where I spent my time is at work in a corporate, as a director in a corporate organization, there's just white men and Lauren, right? So, and then in my neighborhood, I'm in a predominantly white neighborhood. So it just, you just kind of didn't have access to that. And so sure enough, a month later, the whole family came down and he felt it too. He was like, things move different. I feel different.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just want to keep feeling this. And I was like, yeah, me too. And then we had the day where you and Shay graciously took us out to suburb areas. And from that, and I talked to Shay about this, where I was like, Shay, I don't think you know the impact that day had on this whole transition.
Wow.
Which is that it was actually being able to visualize our lives there. Because we were planning on just driving around. Let's just see what happens. But driving around the neighborhoods and actually walking into homes and seeing kitchens and being like, you mean that our life what we live here could be transplanted here, and it's sunny all the time and you're around creative people and you're around your sister and you're going to be a part of your niece's life and everyone's going to be together. Like, yeah, like that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And and I remember saying to Shay in the backseat of the car when we were COVID eating barbecue. Yeah. It's one of those seemed like a good idea at the time kind of plans.
Barbecue in the car is very difficult.
It's very difficult. So many logistics that you just take for granted.
Not really. Go ahead.
But I remember saying to her that I said my fear is that we're all hyped up on this yes we can juice.
Yeah.
But then we're going to go home to regular life, and regular life is going to take over. And it's funny because even I talked to Shan yesterday, and Shan said to me, because you kind of said just now, you're the poster child for change. She said to me, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, I'm the poster. She's like, you were always the example of a person who I used to use as someone who could never change.
Wow, interesting.
Right? Because she was like, she's got too much going on for her in Canada. So she would say that I really enjoy the fact that at the time, like I'm not a homeowner, I don't have kids, like I'm mobile, I can pick up and change. My sister, on the other hand, she's got a corporate job. Yeah. She's got, not just a corporate job, but like a highly recognized executive corporate job, benefits, her husband. Yeah. She's got a home, she's got 2 kids, she's got neighbors, like the whole life, like roots are
you're cemented here.
You're cemented in there. You're done. And but that life is comfortable. It's known. And I just had this fear that we were getting hyped up on this fantasy that would just be this thing that, remember when we talked about, remember that day in the backseat of Justin and Shay's car. I said Justin and Shay's car. It'd be weird if I said backseat of Justin's car. But where we had this dream. Yeah. Remember when we talked about that? Remember how fun that was? Yeah. To daydream for like a minute, and then we never did anything about it. Yeah. That was my concern. I don't remember the question that you asked, but the change is that we've uprooted the entire family from Toronto, and we now live in California.
Can you say that again?
We have uprooted our family, a family of 4, 2 corporate. I'm going to call myself a giant. Why not?
Talk it. Go ahead.
But,
you earned it.
And, 2 children, and we have left that all behind, and we now live in California.
I asked you to repeat it because I just don't know if it's sunk in yet.
It's
like you're here.
I'm here.
You're actually here. You
I'm
guys
here.
are already planting roots.
We're rooting.
Yeah. Well, again, part of wanting to have you on for me selfishly is to learn about the process of, again, having an idea and just a thought and a daydream, as you put it, and actually making it a reality.
Yeah.
You're jumping with no net in sight for the most part, no safety blanket in sight for the most part.
Yeah.
Not to mention you're moving across the country, right? It's technically we're in North America, but you went from, there's a 5-hour flight, 4-hour flight. It's a long way to go. Your family's, aside from Shan, is in Toronto, right? You're talking about grandma, grandpa, for your kids. There's a lot going on, not to mention leaving your job. So all this to say, well,
Yay.
Round of applause
Yay.
For you and for Chris for pulling the trigger, because my next question is, do you feel like you would have regretted it if you didn't?
Yes. That was the push.
Yeah.
was I said to Chris, I know if we do nothing different, I know exactly what the next 5 years of our life is going to look like.
Yeah.
I know exactly what we're going to be doing. I know exactly where our kids are going to be, where they're going to go to school. I know how we're going to spend our summers. I have no idea. If we move, I have no idea what that looks like. So that just means that the possibilities are
endless
and
exciting.
Right. There is this book that I read. It's actually like one of my favorite books. It's a fiction book called Dark Matter by Blake Croucher. And Dark Matter is all about like this man who is a quantum scientist. And he essentially develops this pod and these pills where he can go and he can visit different versions of himself in parallel universes, right?
Is this not the new HBO series?
I'm sure there's a ton of them because there's a lot of movies kind of like this.
Sorry, go ahead.
But if it is an HBO series, tell me what it is because I will watch it. I love that book. But what I loved about because he is, kind of in his kitchen making spaghetti. He's got a wife, he's got a son. The son's putting spaghetti on the floor and he can't help but wonder, like, what if I would have pursued my science further? What if I would have, taken myself up on all these what if questions? Sure. So we actually had the technology where he could actually go and realize that. And I was like, if I could go back to a certain time in my life to see what would that version of me look like, it was the version of me that in my early 20s could have come to LA. Because at the time I was in the music industry, I was doing music publishing and I wanted to be a music supervisor and I was doing music consultation and I was doing music licensing for film and television. And I was working with a company out in LA and there was this conversation to explore that. And so that was my big what if. So to your question about regret, when the opportunity came back, I was like, I'm not going to do another what if.
Right.
I'm not going to do it.
Well, how old were you with that first possible opportunity for LA?
It was like early 20s, like 20, 21, something like that.
So you and Shan were both still in LA. Shan wasn't out here.
Shan wasn't out
in
here.
Toronto, right?
No, there wasn't even no talk of Shan being in LA. Like this was something that I was doing because I was going to be I was in the music industry. I was going to be a music mogul. That was it. That's what I was.
So Jimmy Iovine and
that was it.
Get it. Yeah. Okay. By the way, I think that show is with Clive Owen and Julianne Moore. I think that's what you're talking about. If not, it's very similar.
Yeah, I have to get
we'll look it up.
Yeah.
Anyways, the reason why I use the word regret is because to me, that is one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
To live with that, when I was 21, 22, I was working for this company that was actually had a setup outside of Toronto, was in LA, and I could have, would have, should have, and you have to live with that. And what's very inspiring that you and Chris are creating is outside looking into Shan's point, you two kind of appear like you're stuck.
Yeah.
And I don't mean stuck in like you're unhappy, but just stuck like you're so concreted and rooted to something where it's like, just the thought of it. I can't even imagine.
I don't even understand it.
We haven't even talked about your kids' friends at home. There's a whole thing. There's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so it inspires me because Shay and I have talked about if we would ever relocate, and it's easier for me to pick up and go because I've picked up and go my whole life.
Yeah.
I've lived in New York. I've lived in LA now, traveled the world. I've half my life. I've probably been out of a suitcase. It's nothing for me. I shouldn't say nothing. It's not as hard for me to just pick up and go. Whereas Shay, on the other hand, who ironically enough, when we were dating, was the one who wanted to move to Chicago because she's never lived outside of California.
Yeah.
So it was like this, I've always thought about it, I always dreamed about it. I have this opportunity now.
Right.
Let's go. So all this to say, we are still like, I don't know if I could pull it. Just the thought of it is kind of, it's scary.
It's daunting.
It's scary. But for us, it's back to that regret. Would we regret not moving or would we regret staying here, right? So, or ended up moving and pulling the trigger. Another question, though, that I want to address and talk about the process, right? Because that daydream, that idea is fun. That just thought ultimately comes down to, okay, well, there's got to be some changes, some sacrifices, some ending in order for us to actually physically get to LA, to move to LA. So did you ever think, like, what would it cost me in order to get what I truly desire?
Yeah. what is it currently costing me?
Sure.
Is another interesting question. Well, okay, let's talk about what would it cost me, because in order for you to change anything about yourself, your desire for change has to be, the pain of change. I'm going to screw this up. I always do. In order for you to actually make a change, the pain of change has to be greater than the pain of staying the same.
Yep.
Nope, other way around. The pain of staying the same has to be greater than the pain of change. Butchered it. All right.
Everyone's picking up what you're putting down. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, I'm not a JD's Gems. I don't profess to be. But anyways, so when I thought about what it would cost us, it was more like, okay, it was just sort of the discomfort of moving the kids away from their friends.
Yeah.
The discomfort of moving my husband away from his mother when he's an only child.
Yeah.
An only child to an elderly mother, single mother.
Yeah.
Those are costs. But what I knew was that we could figure out the costs. And as we kind of went down that path of like figuring out one thing at a time, because my biggest fear was that it would cost us too much. My big fear was that we would need, because I knew I couldn't bring Chris's job signed on to relocate him. I knew that wouldn't be for me. So the cost would be a loss of my income.
Sure.
Which again, Chris and I were making like pretty much neck and neck, right? So that's significant.
Of course.
But again, it's like, so we were just trying to figure out like one obstacle at a time. How could we figure that out? Right? Like, how do we make that money? How do we make that money back? What are the avenues that we look at? Which is how, we talked to Shan about us working together. One, what that salary would look like, but also, me launching my own business, my own performance coaching business was again, a way of figuring all that out.
Yeah.
So when we just kind of figured it out one thing at a time, then the fear of that cost kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Now that I'm here, what I didn't realize, or I didn't really fully take in or take consideration, was the loss of independence and the loss of identity. I haven't mourned that yet. And I didn't, because I didn't foresee it. It was just like, oh, everything's lining up. Oh, like everything that we thought was an obstacle, like, oh, we'll never get a mortgage because we're Canadian. No, RBC does that. Like they do it all the time. Yeah. Oh, we're going to have to live in like a 1-bedroom apartment because we're starting over. And it's like, no, you can live in your same 5-bedroom house just over here. And it's like, okay. So all of it was just lining up. So you just kind of go with that momentum. But now that we're here, there's this frustration and this loss of self that I have because I was my own person. I was a mom or whatever, but I'm my own person. Like if I need to go somewhere, I get in the car, I drive. If I need to buy something, I make my money. I go purchase things, right? I need to do anything. Like I'm empowered to do that. Sure. At this stage, because we're moving from a foreign country, I don't have any of that. Yeah. We're in one car. It's a rental. I need to come here. I got to go through like 60 questions of like qualifications and, or I need to ask for money just so I can go into a store because we're low on milk, because all of that stuff isn't set up yet. And not only that, but not necessarily knowing what my job is or what the start date is or what the office hours look like or all of that stuff just has me in this constant state of limbo where I just feel like I constantly have to be bending to everyone else because I don't understand what it looks like to be me right now. Wow. Does that make sense?
That's makes total sense. And I'm trying to process and say that's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. When and how did you, well, I guess not how, but when did you really start to notice this, that it was serious and not just something that's like, oh, we'll be okay, I'll figure it out, it's fine? Like, when did it start to kind of take over you to where you're like, I actually need to spend some time in this department?
I kind of feel like week 1. You know,
Wow.
I thought about, and I think too was, I was listening to the episode of Enjoy the Podcast about the infamous satisfaction episode. Satisfaction episode. I'm not allowed to use that word. Chris is like, don't you dare. Because you're going to start using it and I'm going to start using it. Satisfaction. And it was like this, you know, you had this milestone that you were going to get to when you put it on your vision board, move to California. Yeah. And you worked and you got there. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, you know, you just enjoy the view. And I was like, I can't. Yeah. It's I won't swear, but it's effing cloudy. Yeah. It's foggy up here. I can't see. And I just feel like I'm not even at the, I've hit the, there was a big sticker on my I don't have a vision board. I have a vision board, but it's like sticky notes on a mirror. But there's this big one, move to Cali. Yeah. That was it. Okay. I'm there. Mm-hmm. Now what? I can't see it. I just feel like I'm not even at the peak of a mountain. I'm at the base of a one that I don't even know where the top is. Yeah. I'm kind of just like, okay, well, I got here. I ripped off the Band-Aid. I didn't figure it all. That was the thing. None of this got figured out in advance. Yeah. People would find out about me moving to California in like pieces because I was like, there was never a concrete decision date. Like, we're moving to California. Yeah. It was like, hey, let's figure this thing out. Mm-hmm. But there's so many gates to go through and there's so many decisions points that could happen that would just cause you to be like, oh, we're not moving. Yeah. Like up until the day that Chris, you know, flew down here for 3 weeks himself, mm-hmm. which was in June, and he took in his visa application. When he went into that airport, there was a chance as late as June, like a month ago, where if the officer said, sorry, still be there. Wow. So how was there ever going to be this like concrete decision? Sure. So you kind of reach that peak and then it's like, I can't enjoy the view. And it was feeling that way. But I would look at Chris and I would get so jealous of him because he's continued his role over here. He's enjoying he's like basking in it. He's like
best life.
He's in the sun. Like he got a raise because of this. Like, so he's just, but because we're doing so much of this through his company, he also has access to figuring out most of this stuff where I'm just like the receiver. Like I'm the like, hey, so, at what point do I get to be brought into the loop on this part? You know what I mean? Because it's not in my control. None of this is in my control. But because he, you know, it's in his wheelhouse, it's in his control, and he wakes up in the morning, he knows exactly what he's got to do that day. He knows exactly what meetings to go to. He's got a work from home situation already worked out. He looks at me, he's like, "Isn't it just beautiful, Lauren? Like, I just love this. I love this. It's so, you know, like I'm different out here. Like I can feel the air. It's like, yeah,
must be nice.
It's so nice. Yeah. Must be so nice to be you." And I'm just like, I'm not there yet. Yeah. I'll get there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just so important that you are recognizing it, but also just kind of living in it and not suppressing it, not running from it, not blaming anyone, not letting it cause resentment in your marriage or, you know, I said, you know, you're frustrated and it makes you uncomfortable, but it's not a detriment. It's not something that you hold against Chris, right? It's not his fault that this is kind of all shaped up.
Sometimes I do.
Okay. But it's good that you're sitting with it. I think it's so important. Yeah. And ultimately, as we all know, comfort, which was Toronto, and growth, California, could not coexist.
It's not. Well, what was the first quote that you talked about? Like,
yeah, no, you're good.
So butchering all your quotes.
A longer quote, but one half of knowing what you want is knowing what you must give up before you get it. Yeah. And change, probably this is where you're going, change will always cost you something. Yes. If not monetarily, then in time, energy, and creativity. Yes. In fact, if it doesn't cost you anything, it's not real change. This is costing you personally.
That's where I'm sitting.
Everything.
Yeah. And that's where I'm sitting. Now, I have hope. I have support.
You have trust.
I have trust. So I have all the things.
Yeah.
What I haven't given myself is the space to figure it out.
What does that look like?
It looks like, that's a very good question. Like really putting together a plan, sitting down with the plan.
With that plan.
What's in my control is really a matter of documenting. Like just even like documenting sounds so formal. But even just like writing out the things that are currently giving me anxiety.
Yeah.
And then processing each one of those. No different than what we did to get here. What are all the things that are giving us anxiety about the move? Figure that one out, figure that one out, figure that one out. You just knock them off the list until you're just like, oh my God, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And that is what that space looks like. But I think that I've reserved that part for after the kids get into school. Because once the kids get into, because right now I'm just feeling very torn.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for me to give to myself when I've just uprooted my children. Because this was the thing that I said to Shan too. I said, even coming out here I was like, I'm very fearful because Chris isn't taking vacation. So I'm very fearful that I'm going to come out there. The kids do not have school. They do not have summer camp.
Yeah.
They do not have friends.
Right.
They have nothing. Yeah. It's costing them a lot.
They just got Wi-Fi.
They just got Wi-Fi. They just got Wi-Fi like a week ago.
Yeah.
Right. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to say, I'm going to work. Your dad's going to work. Figure it out.
Yeah.
I can't do that. So, but at the same time, Shan needs help.
Yeah.
At the same time, the moving logistics need paying attention to, going to the DMV, like getting all the shots and like all of this stuff.
Sure.
All of that needs being paid attention to. I still have a coaching business that I took off 1 week. So I still have that going. And then there's the kids. So I've kind of like, until the kids are in school and they have structure and they have the ability and access to make friends and build a life on their own, and we can start talking about extracurriculars, there isn't me time right now.
Yeah.
But I can see it. And when I was leading teams, like my people would come to me when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling overwhelmed. And I used to ask them, I would say, can you see your meadow? And the meadow is this place where you can breathe. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's blue skies, it's butterflies, it's green haven. Grass, and it's clear.
Yeah.
You know? Can you see your meadow? Can you see that point where if you can just get past this date, there's your meadow? Yeah. And if they said no, they can't see it, we got a problem. Let's start fixing that. But if you can see your meadow, okay, this is a moment in time. Let's just do what we got to do to get through it. But then make sure that we hit that meadow as a milestone. Yeah. So for me, that's my meadow. I need to make sure that I actually use the meadow and not just like cover it in fog again and just keep going. Right. So that's what space looks like for me. It looks like the meadow, but it also looks like the kids going to school. And because their mental health, especially with COVID, I was like, is this fair? This move can't be fair to them because they've been in and out of online school. They've been in and out of like, they also changed schools last year too. We put them into a new school.
Wow. Yeah.
And they hated it. So I was just like, now I'm layering just another big thing onto them. And taking care of their mental health has just been so it already felt selfish and mean to make this change to begin with. So I'm just like, but if they're set up for success, they're in school, if I just pay attention to them and I can release that from my conscience, then there's space to be like, okay, Lauren, now figure your stuff out.
Yeah. Such a selfless, loving act.
I feel like I'm talking so much.
No, this is great because I talk way too much and I'm like, I forgot I have a guest here. So please. But it's such a selfless, loving act for you. And it hits home for me because I am almost positive I can speak on behalf of 75% of people listening or watching right now who didn't have a parent who had the thought process as you and Chris. The meadow, my mom lived at her meadow on a Tuesday, on a Sunday, in 96, in 03.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Selfish act after selfish act after selfish act without much consideration of me.
Yep.
He'll be all right.
He'll be all right.
Fend for himself.
Yeah.
He'll be good. Not even taking into consideration the impact and the effect of what said decisions, in my column, consequences, would have on me.
Yeah.
So bravo to you and to Chris for even having the wherewithal. And it sounds common sense to you, but trust me, it's not common to most parents.
And I think that it's important to, like, I've let my kids watch me cry.
Yeah.
I've let my kids watch me break down. I've let my kids watch me struggle. Because I think it's important. I think it's important that they understand where they are in my thought process, because it can all just seem easy and magical. Like, you don't think about where the orange juice comes from, what it takes to get the orange juice. It just appears in the fridge. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I just think that it's good for them. I don't want to shield them from the pain of making hard decisions.
Sure. Yeah.
You should know. You
So
should
important.
know what's going. And then that way, the time that I do spend with you, you appreciate it because you know.
I don't have to be here.
I don't have to be here. I've got things to do.
Yeah. So a little bit more back on the timeline of you're still in Toronto, you're still contemplating everything. You mentioned offline that you were still hesitant.
Yeah.
Although you have this sticky on your mirror and your vision, your dream board, you were still like, yeah, but walk me through kind of that hesitation, and more so, what got you past that?
Yeah. It's fear, right? It's fear. The what ifs. Certain things had to be figured out in order for me to be like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because my big thing was, like, I think the first day that we were like, hey, maybe we should figure this out. I think I called Shay and I was like, let me talk to a lender. Right?
Yeah.
Day one, because my fear was that I was going to change the lifestyle that my children and my family had grown accustomed to.
Yeah.
So until I knew that was going to be okay, and I'm still going through it, but that was always at the forefront. And again, it's just better for them. You know, what got me past that was knowing that my son was going to start high school in 2 years.
Okay.
I'm not going to take a kid out of high school and make a change like this. So it just kind of got to a place where it became, it's now or never. Number one. Number two, what was the book? How to Be a Badass at Making Money.
Yep.
The line that stuck out for me from that book was, if you made a plan B, then you haven't made a decision.
Yeah.
And so it was constantly that reminder to stop making contingency plans, stop making plan Bs. You're making a decision. And it was, and just like those thoughts over it, like, it's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to feel this way. You're supposed to, if you're fearful of it, that means that you're on the right path.
Run towards it.
Run towards it.
Yeah.
Everything is figure outable. It's like those things were where it just became necessary.
Yeah.
And if I'm being very honest, as we figured it out, it just made more and more sense, to the point where not doing it would have been like chicken of us not to do it.
You can swear, by the way.
I feel bad.
You can swear. I appreciate that, because it says a lot about how you feel about the show. But you can swear. I either edit it out or leave it in. Depends.
I just can't come up with another word. It feels cowardly.
Okay.
There, give me more time.
Sure.
It would have felt cowardly to not do it, because everything's like everything's lining up for you, you know? And the fact that we made this change so fast was just showing how rapidly things were lining up.
Sure.
You know, not only, you know, was Chris's work in support, but he was going to make more money at it. The visas were going to be taken care of. The house market was ridiculous.
Still is.
So we could make bank on our house. All of those things. And it's like, even before we knew whether we would be able to come or not, we put our house on the market because it felt like for every day that we weren't on the market, it was a week. For every week that we weren't on the market, it was $100,000 that we were walking away from.
Wow.
Because you never knew when the market was going to cool.
Sure.
So it was all of those. You need external, and this is something I talk to my clients about as well when it comes to like moving towards something. It's like you need milestones or factors that are not in your control that push you ahead. The market is not in my control. What I do with it is.
Sure.
Right? My kid starting high school is not in my control. But I use those markers that are out of my control in order to push me to make harder decisions. Because otherwise it could just be like, in 18 months, maybe we'll keep considering it. But when you have those external milestones that are not in your control, then it pushes you forward because now you don't have a choice. Because now you're going to, you can see the cost of the decisions that you're making versus just being like, meh.
I'll do it later.
I'll do it later.
Figure it out later.
California will always be there.
Exactly.
It won't.
It won't.
It won't.
At least not to the route that ended up being what you took.
Or the path, it will never be as easy as it is today.
Correct.
Right?
So you said that when I asked, you know, you were still hesitant, you said fear. But you're here now.
Yeah.
What is your fear now of being here?
Again, loss of identity. Staying in loss of identity for a long time. Something that, you know, and Shannon and I talked about this when I was on her YouTube, and we talked about, it was kind of like premarital counseling for us to be working together. But there was always this sort of, and I talked to her about, you know, when I talked to one of my best friends, and his comment to me was like, you're just going to, like, why are you even doing this? When you go down there, you're just going to be Shan's sister. And it's like, that's a real thing, because out here in my world, I'm successful. I'm the star of my show.
Sure.
Right. I run the island. Out here, I'm Shan's sister. Working with Shan, working with my family, it's in support of
Shan's business.
And so the fear I have is not figuring out how to carve out my own identity and be who I was when we were separate. We're shining in our own lights, right? Now I got to figure out how to elevate her while still not being lost in
the background
shadow, the background. Because I can very easily become a background player. I'm good at it because I'm an introvert. I'm shy as a normal human being. That's my being. And I have to push myself to be out in the forefront. But it was never like, I went to school for radio and television arts. I never wanted to be on the screen. I wanted to be behind the scenes. Even when I was Beyonce, when I was a Beyonce impersonator, I was always being drawn to like, let me deal with the contracts. Let me do the business side of it. Because I can just very easily, if you don't check me and if it goes unchecked, I'll fade back. So my fear is just not giving that space enough priority, or always rationalizing myself out of like, so today I say to you, you know, when my kids are in school, then I can figure out me. Or then the kids are in school and I found a new reason to not figure out me.
Right.
So that's the thing that I have to constantly keep in check.
If you don't mind me asking, where does that stem from?
Which one?
I love the background role.
Where does it stem? It stems from being shy. It stems
childhood,
from naturally being a shy person.
Okay.
You know, but that being said, I would come alive. Like my mom loves to talk about this, where she was like, when I was 6 years old or something, was very, very shy, didn't talk to people, whatever the case is. But then I was Miss Hannigan in some school camp play of Annie. And she sat in the audience and she was like, who is this child?
Yeah.
Who is this person?
Comes to light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because I'm more so that I can more like, I can tap into that when there's an audience, but by myself, right?
Right.
By myself, I can shrink into myself. If you are playing piano music during this moment,
I won't.
Don't play piano music during this moment. I swear to God. I'll boycott your show.
I will not. I will promise. I'll play some trap music for
No,
you.
you'll play some trap music.
Get you hyped. Play some rocking music for you.
Okay. But yeah, like that's kind of, just it can be very easy for me to be in the background, but it's also my nurturing side where I just I'm good. I'm good making other people successful. I'm good lifting other people up. And I can justify that makes me happy. To see you being amazing, that makes me happy. And my role is to nurture that. But it diminishes this really cool part of me that deserves to stand in its own light.
But selfishly, you're being selfish with your selflessness.
Exactly. So
is that sustainable?
That's the constant reminder is that no, because it's not sustainable, because even in this moment right now where, again, like I say to you, like I recognize that I can't sit in this much longer. I can't sit in this feeling much longer of not knowing what to do with Lauren. Right? Can't.
Which version of Lauren?
The version of Lauren that is in control. The version of Lauren that is on her own. The version of Lauren that books her own audiences, has her own business, has her own, presence, has her own podcast, has her own, where she's her own person.
Sure.
That's the part of me that I have to constantly ensure because I believe in that part. I actually fully do. I believe that I'm good at that. And I believe that I'm talented in that space. And I will do myself a disservice if I allow myself not to
live in that.
I
agree.
Now, it's just a matter of, but I also know that I will not be good if I am completely selfish with that. Yeah. So it's a balancing act. It's trying to figure out how to, I coach so many women. And that is a constant struggle for a lot of women. Yeah. Especially when you become a mother. For a lot of mothers, it's me last. Sure. Right? Everyone else, I can take care of everyone else. If my husband's having game night, I can make amazing tacos, but I'll eat nothing all day. We can very easily play the role of the nurturer, play the role of the martyr. And we have to have that reminder we have to give ourselves that permission to shine on our own.
And I think too, I'm putting myself in your shoes with Shay. And if Shay, was feeling these things, and at times she does. She's so selfish with her selflessness. Yep. She says yes to me and says no to herself too often, more than we would both like. But I've taken on some responsibility that I can control in helping to change that in a way where I'm supporting anything that you want to do that is serving for you. Yeah. Even if it means that me and my guys got to order Taco Bell because you won't make tacos from scratch. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. I'd rather you eat. These guys don't even appreciate. They don't even know the difference. You could wrap it in a Taco Bell wrap. They think, you know what I mean?
Be fine.
So it's so important, I think, for spouses and for partners to acknowledge how your partner feels, to respect how they feel. Even if they say, it's okay, I got it. No, it's fine. No, it's okay. That's not a cry for help I don't mean to be insensitive, but that is a sign that it's not okay. Yeah. Right.
And that's something that Chris actively does as well. Like even his birthday is tomorrow. Yeah. And, he will say the words, I don't want you to cook.
Yeah.
Because it'll be like, what can I make you? Let me make this day special. Like, because, you know, and two, just the way the birthdays are, like Cairo's July 6th, Zara's August 6th, Chris is August 8th. I'm August 19th. By the time we get to my birthday, I'm birthdayed out. Like, I'm just like, we're all done celebrating.
Right.
My family doesn't want to see us anymore.
Right. No more birthdays.
No more birthdays.
Yeah.
But you know, he will take that to just kind of say, you know, I actually don't want you. What would mean the most to me is if you just sat on the couch and we had takeout together and you weren't in the kitchen.
You were present with me.
You're present with me. And that would
be a present.
Mean most exactly.
It's the best present to give.
I'm a present.
Your presence is a present.
My presence is a present.
Like that. Go ahead, Kanye. But I do want to go back to the fear of not finding yourself, the fear of continuing to be selfless, that everyone is good and you'll figure it out later. When working with family, first of all, bless your heart, all power to you. I couldn't personally.
I will say that was absolutely part of the hesitancy as well.
Oh my God.
Because it was just like, you know, because you're not supposed to mix these things.
That's the
so
cardinal
it's a
rule.
risk, right? Yeah. It's a risk. Like, this is my sister's my best friend. Yeah. What if we can't work together? Right. Like, for me, that was part of the resistance. Yeah. And at the time that we had made the decision, I was getting so many offers to work for other banks, for work to other data companies. I got IT options coming out the yin yang right now. But I was like, I'm not going to come to LA and work for another IT company. Like, it's not going to be it. So this is the way to go. But it's definitely that thing that says, like, what if you guys fall out? What if when the money gets real, things start acting up? Sure. Like, it's all that kind of stuff, right? But that was part of my hesitancy, where it was like, that wasn't at risk for Chris, but it was at risk for me and for the most important relationship that I have in my life is, oh man, that sounds weird. Outside of my husband and kids,
inside of your immediate household,
outside of my immediate household, because Chris is going to listen to it and be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, hold on.
Is with my sister.
Sure.
And this introduced so much good, but it introduced so much risk as well.
So my follow-up question.
You were going to ask a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me ask the question.
Go ahead.
On my show. No, I'm just kidding. The follow-up question I had was, you said you feared not being able to work with your sister. You feared, mixing family and money and so on and so forth. But have you ever thought about the fear of what happens if the corporate, what you've worked so hard to achieve version of Lauren appears while working with your sister?
Yes.
What happens when you get your you, as you said, you haven't really found it yet while you're here in these transition weeks, 3 weeks in, when you're working with your sister?
Yeah, 100%. Because they're so free flowing. I'm going to come in there with my structure and my agendas and my start time, end times. I'm going to come in with that. The cool thing about me, though, is that I have the corporate structure, but I also have the creative background. So I started out working with creatives. Yeah. So I know how to speak both languages.
It's huge.
And like, my degree is in radio and television arts. So producing content and media, I'm versed in that space, but I'm also versed in the strategic planning, the financial planning. I'm versed in how to transform organizations, how to grow revenue, how to lead teams.
Sure.
So absolutely, there is that concern that I'm going to come in. And I think I said this to Shan as well, where it was less about Shan, because I know that Shan wants to be told in a lot of ways, like, what to do.
Sure.
Because it's kind of a relief for her.
Totally.
When someone can come in and be like, no, do this. And so even part of this, while we were doing, Shan and I launched a course together, and that was really like dating for me. I was like, I'm not even going to do this for money. Like, I just want to see how we can work together. Yeah. And because I need to know, like, it's like moving in before you get married. To figure this out.
Everyone should.
Everyone should do.
Personally, it's how I feel.
Or get divorced and try it again.
Yeah.
There's a gem.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Put that on a
It's
t-shirt.
fine. You get divorced. Do it over.
Do it all over again. It's not going to be right the first time. Okay. But doing that was like to kind of see how do we receive each other? Mm-hmm. How do we work with one another? And what I saw with Shan is that my structure is foreign to her, but she also sees the value in it.
Yeah.
And similarly, her ideas are so like, I would never think that. Like, I don't even understand how you go there. And we can kind of come together in a spot, like even with when I talk about the happy main character energy retreat that we held, if we would have done it all my way, and if we would have done it all her way, if we would have done it all her way, it would not have been good. If we would have done it all my way, it would not have been good. Yeah. But bringing the two together, bringing the structure and asking those critical structural questions that's an interesting idea. Tell me what you want to accomplish by having a twerk off in this 5 minutes of reflection.
Yeah. Like, how do you see this benefiting the
what
group?
What is it that you're looking to do?
Yeah.
Okay, that's your objective. What if we did another way? Or what if but it's those kinds of conversations, and she listens. Yeah. We listen to each other, and we know when to kind of be like, okay, valid. I'm backing off versus, like each one of us just really wanting to get our way.
Sure. It's so important that you check the ego, but this is actually good, I think, as well. Because for me, when I think of ego, unfortunately for now, I think of men. I think it's like our egos get in our own way. It's too much pride as well for our own good, et cetera, et cetera. But for you two to be able to set both egos, different egos, right, aside, and to be a yin to the yang, understanding the ultimate value of working together is always going to be better than working apart. Yeah. And it's great that you had that practice, you had that trial and error. And it's great that you're spending time, I think, also to sit with like, well, what happens if the version of myself that I would love to be, that I'm trying to be, doesn't work with working with my sister? Yeah. And what if it does, right? Yeah. It's beautiful that you're spending time with both. So I guess a final takeaway with the episode, as much as we've unpacked a lot, I wrote something down that I would just love to hear your thoughts on. Do you agree that you must remove or destroy or cancel out something that's old to create something new? Or can you just kind of mesh it together? It's a very vague general question. I realize that as I'm asking it. To be more specific, was there anything in your life in Toronto that you felt that you had to get rid of, or in some way, shape, or form, in order to have the life that you knew you could have with your family in California?
A pension.
Okay. Not expecting an answer. Okay.
A bonus. Stocks.
Maybe it's structure.
It is structure. You know what it is? It's structure. And it's funny because I do remind myself of that line in my resume that's like, works well in ambiguity. Like I remind myself of that. Like, sure, you said it, you be it. Yeah. Right?
Own it.
You have to own it. But I think that what has been difficult for me to wrap my head around is no longer leading people. That part is
not needed here.
It's not, I don't have people right now. Right. So it's like the buck stops with me. If something gets handed to me, it's like, oh, see what? Oh, you want me to do that?
I'm supposed to do this.
That's me. Yeah. And it's doing things that I'm not good at, you know? So what's another thing you have to destroy? The part of you that is great at stuff, great at everything. I'm a very well decorated corporate employee. You know, I've got awards because of and because I'm a project manager, I work with structure, in scope, out of scope, timelines, milestones, risk, mitigation. Sure. That's my language. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense to me. That's how working makes sense to me. Sure. And leading people and being able to delegate and being able to manage my space and because I'm empowering other people to rise up by them doing some of the work.
Sure.
So I'm not saying that that's gone. It's not present right now, but I do think that I do know that I see that coming again.
Yeah.
You know, I do see that being on the horizon. But it is a part of me that has to be okay with now being the janitor. I've got to be the janitor. I've got to be the, CEO sometimes. I've got to be I don't know. I'm just going to list other roles. And you were like, we get it, Lauren. You have to be all things.
Yeah.
Cook, wash, bottle washer.
Sure. Babysitter.
You know what? Just stop doing quotes. That's what this is. Just stop trying to do quotes, Lauren. You're not good at it.
Destroy that to create something new. Yeah.
But where I could delegate that stuff before, because I'm like, my role is to be X. Now it's this mishmash of like, I don't know what my role. My role is to just get in and just do whatever needs to get done.
Swiss Army knife. And
I don't want to stay in that way for very long, because I do believe that it's important to empower others. I do believe that it is important to, get others good at things so that you're not always in the fire. I don't believe in firefighting full time. I believe that there's elements of that, but I'm not trying to be in the fire all the time. I want to, but I want to bring structure. I want to bring leadership. I want to bring those things. Is it present right now? No, but I'm not in there yet.
Sure.
Once I get in there, but I have had to let that part of me go. That is, and I think Shan said this to me, where when she thinks of Lauren, she thinks of a person who does everything exactly right.
Yeah.
And now I have to be in this place. I have to let that part go to be Lauren who does things wrong, but learns from it and figures it out because she sucks in that area. I have to be Lauren who sucks for a bit.
When was the last time you were Lauren who sucks?
I suck once every 6 months. I will say that. I suck once every 6 months. But that is how I grow. Exactly. And I use those as confidence boosters to say, I suck right now, but I look at my track record and I always swim. I will get those awards back. I will get command of this. I will be amazing at this. And I will talk about later about the time when I sucked. Yeah. Because I'll talk about it for the other part where I sucked every day. And now I could talk about how, you know what, JD, I was actually pretty friggin' awesome. Like, I killed it.
For sure.
And I'll do it again.
Yeah. I love that you used the word swim.
I think about that often. It's jumping into the deep end. Yeah. You jump into the deep end and you sink or swim. I will always swim.
I also think of it, like water, right? You have to be fluid. Sometimes the tide changes. Yeah. Sometimes it's deep in this sense. Sometimes it's shallow in this sense. So with water comes fluidity, adaptability. So
on my resume.
It's great. Yeah. Water. Look it up. Okay. I want to take this moment to acknowledge you.
Can I go first?
To acknowledge myself, or to now acknowledge me?
It's your podcast. Can I go first? Okay.
Sure.
I just want to say how very, very cool. I have listened, this week aside, I've listened to every single one of your podcasts.
Thank you.
Every single one of your podcasts. I know you have.
Thank you.
And I just think that it is, and I also know that you don't choose people lightly to sit in this chair. No. So I'm very honored to be in here. But I'm also, it's really cool to be on this side of the podcast. So I just want to say thank you so much for not just having me here or trusting me enough with this hour of your audience's time and their precious ears, but also for just, you and Shay have been incredible friends through this transition. You guys have been, kind of provided more light than in terms of what life could look like on this side. And, when I was doing my stuff, I remember when I first said I'm doing a book club, you reached out to me immediately and you're just like, how can I help? How can I be a part of this? And it's just really nice that you are supportive for technically someone who you don't really know. Like you've known me for like a minute. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of that and for being such a really great influence and having a great impact and being a source of encouragement in times when I've felt like I suck. So thank you.
Wow.
Also,
that's great.
Like even in this moment,
Yeah.
I should be crying because I've been teetering all week. I've been teetering because there's just so much going on.
Yeah,
Like I'm unpacking, I'm
Sure.
caring for a baby again, being torn in very different directions. But you've created this space where I feel comfortable, I feel confident, and I feel good about the things that I'm saying because you're asking really great questions. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Well, we can cry together if you want.
Do you want a high
Poetry,
five?
I do want a high five. Thank you. I want a hand hug. That's a
What's-
hand hug.
It was weird that I tried to pull back and you held me.
It's a hand hug. 'Cause I've tried to put you. Yeah, this is
No,
great.
I went like that. I
Yeah.
snapped back and you were like,
You
no,
did.
no, stay
Hand
here.
hug.
Stay
Hand
here.
hug. I thank you so much for all that. That's the first time anyone's acknowledged me on the show, so I appreciate it. More of the like not knowing you, so why is it this, give? I don't really know you that well. I don't really know Chris and Zara and Kara that well, but the initial meeting of you and the impression that you gave, not that I received, but that you gave, that forced me to receive, was so warm.
Yeah.
In like every way of that word. It was like, you even corrected me on how I hug. That's how warm it was. I came in with like the half, side hug, and you were like,
That's weird.
all Americans hug. And I was like, oh shoot, well here, let's bring it in for the real thing, and even from that, but just, I could tell you took the time, like not just from watching, enjoy the podcast or even who can write, but I could just tell that you cared.
Yeah.
You were already someone invested in me. So I felt that. And I just appreciate that. And it's you, it's Shan, it's Olivia, it's Brian, it's Chris, anyone that's in your life, you give that off. But I really appreciate all that you said. And I know I can speak on behalf of Shay that I think for a long time there, under Shan and Jared, Shay and I were most excited to have you here.
Yeah.
It's been that way.
I actually feel like you were over Shan and Jared.
Okay. Oh, because Shan didn't think it was real.
No, Shan didn't think it was real. And
Yeah.
she was it was too painful for her to
Even fathom.
invest in that idea.
Yeah, I respect that. I remember those moments for her too. But we were so excited. We are so excited. It's, you may have to tell us, okay, JD and Shay, just not this weekend to come over because we're ready. Any and every weekend, we're there. We're here for it. And we're just so happy that not only are you here, but I know how it is. I can only imagine having my family here.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm not going to cry, but I get it. I get it. And, for you and Shan, I'm rooting for you too. I'm so excited to see what comes from this yin and yang that will be. And I'm excited. Now, my turn to acknowledge you. I'm excited for California Lauren.
Yeah.
We talked about California Cairo. California Chris is already rolling.
He's
He's
rolling.
been rolling. He's been rolling since New Year's.
He's up and running.
He's been rolling since we had barbecue in the car. That's like, Chris has been on this. But for you...
He needs to install brake pads on
Yeah,
California Chris.
exactly. But for you, again, the impression that you left on me the first time I met you was also a moment of awe. It's very rare for me to be impressed by people. Like, very rare. I can tell you 6 people.
Okay.
You're one of the 6.
I'm one of the 6.
Because your presence is a present. And that's why it was like, make sure I say that when you were talking about it, because it's so refreshing to see someone who is sure of who they are and living in it and being unapologetic for it. It's so refreshing to see someone who has this beautiful, as Jared taught me, mosaic, not a balance, a mosaic blend of life.
Yeah.
You're an all-star mother, an all-star wife. I have you on my phone as Chef Lo.
Yeah.
You're an all-star cook, sister, friend, etc. We need more people, more human beings like you. It's an honor to have you in some way, shape, or form in my life and in Shay's life. You've also reached out to me with my consultation and my coaching to where like, hey, I'm going through this stuff. By the way, you should get this book. And I'm going through these things. And can we talk? And I was like, in my struggle lately has been lack of feeling worthy. And I had this moment of like, I can't call her. She's asking me to talk. So it's like, it's okay. She's like, open the door, because I know how precious and how valuable you are and your time is. And for some reason at that moment, I didn't feel worthy of it. But I just appreciate you for always being a phone call away, for always being available and accessible. And for me personally, that means a lot to me. And again, just I'm at another place in my life too, where I only want a certain type of energy in my life.
Yes.
I'm so protective of my light and so protective of my energy, because that shit sucks on either side, and I won't edit that out. So to have you a part of that energy means so much to me.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
That was good flower giving.
Like that?
I really appreciate it.
Cool. Shan was very...
like, what's he going to say?
Yeah. Shan's like, oh my God, JD, do you do this to all your guests? And I was like, yeah, but it's not a copy and paste. Like, it's very customized.
It's like it's personal.
It is.
Yeah.
Jared would call it flirting, but you know.
I think it's good flirting.
Is it flirting?
It's all flirting.
Oh God, don't get me started. Okay. Okay. Round of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And I try to switch it up because I know you watch and listen to every episode. So there's a couple.
Exciting. I'm not prepared.
Good. There's a couple in here that are repeated, but okay. First question is, what do you know now that you wish you knew back when?
Everything is figure-outable.
Maria,
Figuerello?
Yeah.
Don't ask me to say words.
Did you read the book?
I did read it.
Yeah.
Though I did argue that the title was just as valuable as the entire book.
It's a great title.
It's a great title.
Yeah.
And I pretty much got it from there.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a great motto though,
it's
too.
a great motto. I don't think I needed 140 pages of proving that statement to me.
Yeah.
That was enough.
Yeah.
Everything's figure-outable.
I haven't read that book, but before I saw it and I listened to the author, Maria, she was on Jay Shetty's podcast. I was like, I used to have a saying like that, which is everything's not going to be okay. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
All right. Next question. What's one thing you know you need to do, but you're afraid to do it?
Stop.
What do you mean?
That's it. Afraid to stop.
Oh, afraid to stop. Got it.
Yeah. Stop it, JD.
No, I thought you meant
what?
like stop getting in your way, but yeah.
No, just stop. I'm right in this moment. I'm afraid to stop. Yeah. I'm go, 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 go. I haven't taken a breath. I haven't taken a break. I've just gone from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And I'm afraid that if I stop, I will break down. Because all those things that I've been just like, not now, not now, not now, not now, will just come flooding in. And I say I'm afraid of it, but I also know it's needed. I have to have that moment. Yeah. I have to stop. I have to break down. I have to let all those things that are whispering in the back of my head, I need to bring them to the forefront. I need to let it just break me down to my lowest so I can build myself back up. That moment has to happen, but I'm afraid of it. So I'll just keep going. I'm joking. I'll stop.
It's just great that you can just admit that.
Yeah.
Be aware of that. Know that it's coming.
It's coming.
Know that when it does arrive,
it'll be a mess.
It probably won't be in your control.
It won't be nice, but that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay.
It's figure-outable.
It's figure-outable. It has to happen.
I love it.
Everyone needs a cleansing cry.
That's right. Next question. What's one goal you haven't completed yet, but want to this year?
Oh God, I don't know. I want to play Scrabble with my husband and drink wine at night.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Just keep it simple.
That's great.
No, I think it's funny you should say that. The goal that I have that I need to complete this year is actually making a mother effing goal. I need a new one. You know, I kind of got here. Yeah. The goal was to get here. And I've sort of had this vague idea of what would happen after that. Yeah. And now I'm just like, I don't, I haven't sat with it long enough to say, okay, what does that look like? Yeah. And I spend a lot of time working through that with my clients.
Mm.
And I just think that I actually do gift myself the space of a coach as well.
Yeah.
Because that's a space that I need to figure that I need someone to do for me what I do for them.
Sure.
What I do for others,
Mm-hmm.
which is to give me that hour that is just dedicated to getting in my head
Sure.
in order to ask me the hard questions so that I can define that goal.
Sure.
So I think just defining, like clearing the vision board
Mm-hmm.
and starting over,
Yeah.
and, making sure that I fearlessly put up there this whole, who is California Lauren?
Yeah.
What is she doing? What is her business? What is she known for?
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I absolutely need to accomplish this year, because otherwise I'm just going to spin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to just serve everybody else because they know where they're going. So it's easy for me to just jump on their wagon.
Sure.
Be like, you've got directions. I'll just hitch a
Hop on
ride
here.
with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need a co-pilot? I can
Yeah.
navigate. I can be useful. I sing songs.
Sure.
I like karaoke.
I'm good with directions.
I'm good with directions.
It's important though to circle back to, you said, you have a coach
Yeah.
and you're my coach.
Yeah.
Can we officially
Yeah.
say that?
Oh, that's sweet.
We've had one session. We've tried
Yeah.
for 2 others and life's happened, but
Yeah.
I knew I needed a coach
Mm-hmm.
when I felt depleted.
Mm-hmm.
I felt I was selfishly being selfless.
Yeah.
And I also live off of this now because it makes so much sense to me. I needed to be more to give more.
Yes.
There's no way I can continue to serve and serve and serve if I'm not serving myself.
Yep.
And I got to a point where my cup wasn't empty, but it was like 3/4 empty.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I can't. And I wanted to catch it beforehand, and the timing just worked out. And so grateful for you offering that as well.
Oh,
And-
100%.
And for just showing up in that space also means a lot to me too. I should add that with your
It's addictive.
acknowledgements.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But I will say that coaching conversations, and I think that there's been a very, it's almost like there's like this stigma around coaching, because when you're a life coach, like everyone's a life coach,
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
live in like their mom's couch, right? So
Coaching from mom's couch.
coaching from mom's couch, like, let me tell you how to get your life together.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what? You turn your video
Mom,
camera
I'm
on.
recording, Mom.
Turn your camera on. Let me see where you're recording from.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But there's a kind of the stigma around it.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of hesitated around,
Mm-hmm.
that coaching title or embracing that. But
Sure.
I genuinely do see the value in those conversations, because they're addictive. When people
100%.
talk to you and they're paying for your time, you're not investing in JD's services.
No.
You're investing in yourself.
Exactly.
Because this isn't JD's life that
No.
we're working through right now. This is your life that we're working through. This is your goals.
Yeah.
These are your ambitions. These are your thoughts. These
Yeah.
are your limiting beliefs
Yeah.
that we're working through right now. And that deserves to be invested in.
100%.
And I don't like having conversations coaching conversations are addictive, because they are a space where I'm not being told what I should think. I'm not being told, like if I have a problem, you know what you should do is, I'm not being told that. I'm being asked questions. I'm being pushed. And I'm not, the other person isn't taking the space to be like, I had that in my life. Like there was this time when I was going through something similar, and then they just make it about them. Because I don't have to pay for that conversation. I'll just talk to anybody. Like
Yeah.
I'll talk to my friend, and
Sure.
that's what it will be like. But when you have a conversation with a coach, it is different. It is breakthroughs, and it shortens. Not only are you paying for investing in yourself, but you're shortening the timeline, because when you're just in your own head,
Yeah.
you're spinning. A lot of times you're spinning, and you can trick yourself into being like, oh, that's motion. I'm thinking through it. But you're not actually moving things. Like you're shortening the timeline of moving things forward, because you'll come out of that conversation being like, I have clarity. I know what I got to do next.
Yeah.
And that is something that I really value in terms of gifting myself that space,
Yeah.
but giving that space to others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the space that I know that you provide.
Yeah.
So 100%, that's why I called you, to be like, you're doing stuff, I'm doing stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's lessons learned. Let's shorten each other's time. Let's shorten each other's learning curves.
Totally.
By just talking about what works. Because we're also like, I'm alone in this by myself.
Yeah.
So
you and me both.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out,
together.
and we are alone together. We're not lonely, but we're alone together.
Yeah.
It's, you said addicting, and I 100% agree. I also will add, it's so energizing.
Yes.
Like, I get off these consultations fired up.
Yeah.
I'm like hyped.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. You know, I'm just so excited, because I also know how much it takes just to get to the book a session with JD, book a session with Lauren, just to hit that button.
Oh,
Forget about the money. Just to hit that button, you're already halfway there.
oh, your mental gymnastics are like through the roof.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
That's the hardest step.
It is.
And the beauty of after you hit that is you're not going to be alone in figuring out where to go from there, because now you have help.
Yeah, you've got help, and you can come in and you can be messy with it.
Yeah.
I even hesitated on how much, like, because I know that, I coach you, and so I kind of hesitated.
Good. Satisfaction. All good.
I kind of hesitated on like coming in here and being like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Like, I don't have goals.
Yeah.
I'm going nowhere.
I'm a mess.
Depressed. I'm a mess.
Oh, by the way, I have a consultation service. But anyways, I'm just frustrated.
So you sit in this chair and be like, why do I need your help then? You figure yourself out. But I think that it's, one of the powerful things that I even heard like Keandra say is like, therapists need therapists.
Therapists need therapists.
Therapists
for sure.
need therapists, because just because we know how to navigate your brain.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're great at doing it ourselves. I'm good at it, which is why when you said in moments where it's like, it's so good that you can acknowledge that, it's because I coach myself a lot.
Sure.
But I also know that I have blind spots.
Yeah.
That a coach will kind of say to me, what about that? What about that word you used? And I'll be like, oh, damn.
Well, they can recognize the patterns quicker and
Yeah.
maybe more clearly than you can.
Yeah, because everyone knows what they're supposed to do.
Totally.
There's a reason why you're not doing
Exactly.
it. And one of the biggest things, and I talked to you about this before, one of the biggest things that people come to me for is time management. How do I better manage my time? You can Google that. You know how to manage your time.
Yeah.
Get an agenda. I'll write down my to-do list.
Sure.
Okay, that we know that. There's a reason why you're not doing that today.
Yeah.
Until we uncovered that reason, then you can go to the how-to list and start implementing it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I remember that too. Still struggling with time management. So it might be might be the first thing we talk about next session. But yeah, it's important to know. I mean, hell, Michael Jordan had a trainer.
Everyone's got
Like everyone has someone that they need to learn from and or recognize blind spots, to your point. Next question. What advice would you give your teenage self?
You have the capacity to love. This is good. I hesitated because I'm like, am I going to start a new podcast episode with that answer?
You may.
But, I really did have it in my mind that my nickname growing up was the couldn't care less bear. I was just very unaffectionate and very cold. And so when I was in relationships, I always just thought that this is who I am and it's okay. You're garbage. They're not garbage. But like, you don't want to have this intimacy with me. That's cool. I don't really want to have it with you either. And I don't think that I understood early on how to value myself in a relationship and to, be an advocate for my wants and needs, because I just convinced myself that you're fine. You're good. You're good. You don't, PDA is not your thing.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be acknowledged in public. Calling someone the next day is not your thing, or being called the next day is not your thing. So you don't need to be, I think that also stemmed from also having a male best friend. So while my male best friend was going through his thing with other girls, and you know how like teenage boys talk about other girls, like they're annoying.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to be that girl, so I'm just going to walk in, I'm going to know the game. But I set a precedent for myself very early on that said, not you, not now. And, you're second. And I wish I would have done that differently.
Wow.
I didn't want to open up another podcast.
That is a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Now everyone knows what we're going to be talking about next time Lauren comes on. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about who can relate to that. Okay. I promise that'll be another episode. That's a whole bunch of stuff to unpack. So is Friends of the Opposite Sex, which we will have Chris on, your husband.
Oh, look at that. Look at all the segues.
See? Plug. Shay will be on. We'll have the first podcast with 4 people. We'll get into it. Okay, last and final question. What does Lauren admire most about Lauren?
I do everything exactly right.
I mean,
no.
So far, he's yes in my book. So far.
I'm even wrong right. That's honestly how I feel. Like I feel like
this is a quote from Scarface.
I feel like I'm wrong.
Even when I'm wrong, I'm right. Oh, he said I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Even when I lie. Like it's always like I'm in a sense where it's like I'm not a person who's always right, but I know how to be wrong.
Sure. But that's huge though.
That's huge.
I know how
I feel like I'm wrong the right way.
That's amazing. I know how to be
incredible.
Wrong. That's great.
Yeah.
I'll add that to the next episode.
I'm so good at it. Like if I'm wrong, like you'll hear the acknowledgement, and like you won't even have to chase me down for it. I'll just come to you and be like, I did some reflecting on what just occurred, and I see how I played my role in it, and I know, right? That's why I can say.
Now that's flirting. Now that's flirting with me because you're tugging on my heartstrings. Oh my God.
Right. I'm when I'm wrong the right way.
Oh God. We need more like you, especially with that. Jeez. I love it.
And time management, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I'm always on time.
Okay. Where can people find you? Not just social media, but also if they wanted to book a session with you.
So you can find me on social media on Instagram on at This Is Lauren Elizabeth. And my coaching website is maketheshift.coach. Nope. www.maketheshiftcoach.com. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at saying words.
Okay. Well, it has been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I greatly appreciate your time. I greatly appreciate your energy and all your efforts today. Thank you for being so transparent, and you're going to help out a lot of people. And I knew that before, but there was a lot of things in here that I was like, whoa.
Oh,
I just can't wait for people to really like take in and really process. I think this is going to be another episode where people have to watch twice and listen to it twice. And again, just thank you for being you. So happy that you're here.
Yes.
So happy, and can't wait to have you and Chris on.
Yes.
And we'll have to do this again, and I have to like wrap this up because Chicago is like not having it right now. So anyways, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you in advance for no piano music during my soft moments.
No problem. No problem.